Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Today we are going to be looking at Hot Toys John Wick Chapter 2 1/6 scale figure. I have several figures that I have never opened due to making a 3,000-mile move across the country. As I am a little late to the high table with this particular collectible review, the recent release of John Wick Chapter 4 just hitting theaters afforded me a good time to review both the figure and the film. Out of the shipper box, my first impression is that the packaging is polished yet simple, having just the name with some flourishes on the front, back, and sides. This is a collector-friendly slipcover window box design. The box itself is textured to look like black leather. On the sides, you have the floral skull design found on the top of the blood oath marker. On the back, you have the cross and praying hands found on Mr. Wick's back tattoo, with the product credits. I like this style of box far better than the shoebox style, as it allows for me to get a look at the figure before committing to unpacking it. Which is funny, because on 1/4 scale figures, I actually like it better when you can't see the figure and accessories until you've opened it. Inside the box, we have an accessory-rich environment, full of tons of tiny little pieces poised to fling here and there and everywhere if you don't open the plastic tray just so. Seriously, be ready to be searching for those tiny shotgun shells. When asked which of the iconic weapons the Hot Toys John Wick development team wanted to add, they simply answered yes. Wick looks good in hand. The tailoring on his suit is extremely polished, moving and crumpling as a real suit would. The only issue is that the tie is a little bit thick at the knot, which causes it to bulge out, something they probably could have gotten around with a slightly thinner material. My other gripe is that the hands don't have any nicks or cuts around the knuckles, and since they went with the semi-bloodied face, I wish they would have followed suit with the hands. But that's nothing that a tiny amount of paint can't fix. And as for those hands, there's a whopping 10 at 5 left and 5 right, allowing for a plethora of weapon handling poses. All told, there is an incredible 40 separate pieces in the box. The articulation's okay, but unfortunately he can't pull his shoulders up or forward in a fashion that allows him to properly shoulder a rifle or hold his hands straight out in front of him in shooting position. This is a strange choice for a figure that's going to be posed in a shooting position. The shoulder joints do, however, allow for a lot of tight, close to the body posing, such as reloading or pulling back the slide. As for the likeness, well, Hot Toys has 2 different modes: Spot On and Obi-Wan Kenobi, i.e. from a certain point of view. And this is one of those old Ben figures that's a little off. In some light, it does indeed look like Reeves, but in others, it looks like Succession's Jeremy Strong. So in all honesty, I'm actually rooting for Hot Toys to release a Chapter 4 figure with a new head sculpt. That being said, the likeness isn't far off enough to break the figure, and with the proper pose and lighting, he looks like he is jumping right out of the film, which you will see in the upcoming montage. As for accessories, the Benelli M4 Super 90 with operable charge handle and an emergency reload slug, the TTI TR1 Ultralight with sling, forward grip, Triticon Acupoint scope, and side rail RMR for co-witness, Magpul PMag with PMag magazine coupler and Terran tactical extensions. Though I don't believe that this gun was actually used in John Wick Chapter 2, it did feature heavily in the first film. It's the Caltech KSG shotgun with EOTech sight and forward vertical grip. Also seen here are 2 extra 12-gauge shotgun shell accessories: the Glock 34 TTI Combat Master Package, the H&K KP30L with compensator, the Glock 26 TTI Combat Carry Package, the Bowery King's Gift Box Set Kimber Warrior 1911 with 2 magazines, the Blood Oath marker, open and closed configurations, the gold coin underworld currency, 5 singles and 3 stacks. Each coin does actually feature the lion and the person holding a shield on opposing sides, the Microtech combat knife and number 2 pencil, the base stand with blood marker design. Now let's enjoy a montage. You tell me, has Hot Toys nailed the feel? Or is this one just a little too off? Now that we have looked into the figure, what of the movie, or at least the newest installment? John Wick Chapter 4 is tentatively the final installment in the series, and I say tentatively because I don't think that this was ever intended to be the last, but we will get into that in just a moment. This review is going to be a semi-spoiler review with a warning where I seriously blow the ending. Taking cues from Greek mythology and Dante's Inferno, the fourth installment dives deeper into the world under the high table as Wick fights his way up the levels of hell to the gates of heaven, where the last installment had a pagoda-style final battle. This one seeks to turn the entire 169-minute runtime into a continuous string of feats and challenges. What makes this film possibly the best in the franchise is also what makes it the most ridiculous. With Charon no longer able to take coins for safe passage, the boogeyman is now seemingly unkillable, and from the moment we see Wick, he is the fourth horseman raining death upon those he is chasing. And the heavy-handed metaphors don't stop here, and mixed in with these metaphors are some of the most tried and true martial arts tropes ever put to celluloid. The slow breeze causing white petals to rain down from a cherry blossom tree. The blind swordsman with nearly supernatural powers of perception. A room full of decorative weaponry that becomes a killing field. A seemingly demure young woman who is actually a femme fatale. A gauntlet of cartoonishly evil villains that need to be vanquished in order of skill level. And these are just a few. The film's opening salvo being a samurai-style showdown at the Osaka Continental, where we see East meets West in a violent gauntlet caused by the Continental being under siege from representatives of the High Table for harboring Mr. Wick, who is, of course, persona non grata. It is here where we meet most of the characters, and experience maybe the film's best action sequence. Donnie Yen and Hiroyuki Sanada and Rina Sawayama are standout performances in the opening chapter. At its core, this film is basically Kill Bill with a techno beat, but the film also treads some new ground, with a beautiful top-down arcade-style gun battle, and a high-stakes game of Frogger at the Arc de Triomphe. Where this film falls down a bit, though, is John's motivation. At the beginning, he is ready to dismantle the High Table, but about 1/4 of the way through, his motivations change to wanting his old life back. So at the beginning, his stakes are much higher. But as the film progresses, the final boss becomes a more manageable Bill Skarsgård as the Marquis, who is sent from the High Table to deal with John Wick. So in the end, we have another film that centers primarily around middle management. And because this was originally supposed to be two separate films, it suffers a bit from condensed storytelling. Yes, it was 3 hours long, but that only breaks into two 1.5-hour long movies. So don't expect much time to get to know the Harbinger, set up deeper motivations for the Marquis, or get to know Shamir Anderson as the Tracker, or Mr. Nobody, depending on which character bio you read. And honestly, I thought no one's character was going to be the brother of Halle Berry's Sophia Al-Azwar from Chapter 3, as his dog was similar with the body armor, and I just figured that he was possibly her brother trying to buy her way out of the underworld so that she could be with her daughter, as that was a plot thread that was left open in the previous film. But in the end, he really did just turn out to be nobody. So again, don't be surprised if you feel that there are plot points that seem to indicate an invisible fifth installment. Now for the biggest spoiler, i.e., tune out here if you don't want to know the end of the film. Still here? Good. I don't truly believe that this was ever intended to be the final installment. The end sequence is too ambiguous, and they shot a separate ending where John is most definitely alive. I get the feeling that they weren't certain how this one was going to be received, and if it didn't make its money back, and this was in fact it, due to people's changed movie viewing habits, the pandemic, the massive financial downturn, amongst many other things, they could give themselves a soft landing. My gut feeling is that the next film will have John, having faked his death and presumed dead by the High Table, become the stuff of their nightmares, a boogeyman resurrected to kill them one by one from the shadows. And I think that the thing that they buried at the end of Chapter 4 was John's humanity. What's left will be hell-bent on dismantling the entire system, or maybe they will quit while they are ahead. And Chapter 4 will truly be it. It's hard to say, but at the very least, we are getting several spin-off series such as The Ballerina and The Continental, so maybe many of the previously mentioned story threads may be resolved there. And what of the action, you say? The number one reason for the film's existence. I've heard several reviewers complain about the length of the action sequences. I'm not among them. If there's anything I find lacking in most highly choreographed action films, it's the length of the action sequences. In this regard, John Wick Chapter 4 does not disappoint. Following the roadmap set forth by the porn industry, John Wick follows the simple formula of plot, action, plot, action, plot, action. Some sequences go on so long that you actually start to feel sympathy muscle pains for the characters, and action sequences this complex and well choreographed are seldom seen outside of Hong Kong and more recently Thai cinema. Every Wick film has upped the ante, and 4 is no exception. For the most part, John Wick 4's action philosophy is internally consistent with the film's logic. As soon as you accept that Wick is a near indestructible super soldier and Kane has daredevil-like superpowers, it becomes easier to let yourself go with the film. Many of the over-the-top scenes, such as John's tumble down the stairs towards the end of the film, choose metaphor over physics. That being said, there is a sequence that verges on the edge of self-parody. The German dance club sequence, reminiscent of scenes from Blade or The Matrix, and of course the second John Wick. The dancers' complete indifference towards the obvious violence going on right around them drives the film from suspension of disbelief right into Kung Fury territory. In the end, it's rare that not a single negative aspect ruins the film. John Wick Chapter 4 is an epic semi-conclusion to one of the most enduring action franchises in recent history, and hasn't done a single thing to deter me from being right there at the ticket counter for Chapter 5. On a serious note, I wanted to take a moment to mention the passing of Lance Reddick. He was an incredibly talented character actor, and the high point of just about every project he was in. So rest in peace, good sir. Your presence will be sorely missed. I hope you enjoyed this algorithm-confusing toys/movie review, and will help grow and move the channel forward by hitting like, subscribing, and participating in the comment section. And as always, remember, never stop collecting.